There's a statistic that scares me right now about how bad inflation is going to be. When most of us are talking about inflation, we are actually talking about it on the consumer side, the CPI, but there is also a producer side. The producers are the service providers, the manufacturers, the wholesalers, and it's called US producer inflation, also known as PPI. Now, if producer inflation increases for 1 or 2 months, that's not anything really serious. Very often, they'll eat that cost just to keep producing what they have and sell it and make the profits back later. But generally, when there is a strong trend in producer inflation, it generally means consumer inflation is going to keep going up too. And it goes the other way around. That's why 3 years ago I was warning everybody that China was going to go into deflationary territory because their producer price index kept dropping consistently. And that's exactly what happened to China. They ended up going into consumer deflation below 1%, almost 2%. Now, not only has producer inflation in the United States gone up almost 1 whole percentage point year on year, it's been part of a trend. Let me show you. So let's look at the PPI chart from 2021 and note the recovery in 2023. We definitely don't want this index to go below zero because that would mean factories may start shutting down and unemployment starts rising. So it starts gradually rising up. Okay, 1%, that's not so bad. Even 2%, not that bad. But around the end of 2024, it shot up well past 3.5%. So we are no longer in this nice sweet spot of a recovery trend. We are entering an overall inflation trend. And if you compare the producer inflation to consumer inflation, the picture becomes a lot clearer. Take a look with me. Now, producer inflation is in blue and consumer inflation is in red. And you'll see that producer inflation, boom, it keeps coming before and sets the trend before overall consumer inflation starts to follow. Now we look at the upward trend of producer inflation, but the simmering down trend of consumer inflation. That is because the producers were eating the cost, and it was also just a healthy part of our economic recovery. And while this strongly hints that overall inflation is on the rise, we need to look at core inflation, which is our basket of needs, excluding food and energy. Core inflation is now the red bar. It is extremely sticky, much more than overall inflation, and when that starts making drastic moves, we have to pay extra attention. And unfortunately, core inflation has matched the PPI trend and started shooting upwards. Just take a look at how it was in 2017 and 2018. When the PPI was going down, overall inflation was going down. It took core inflation a while to get the message, and then they caught up, boom, a huge tanking. And even during the economic recovery, when producer and consumer overall inflation started dropping, no, core inflation decided to peak up one more time and then slowly descend, which is what scared the Federal Reserve and overall economic analysts. In case you guys forgot, this blue is producer inflation, the purple is overall consumer inflation, and this red, that is now core inflation. And I would welcome any economist on this app, off this app, wherever, to tell me that this doesn't mean that prices are going to start drastically rising. Now, I can't predict the future. Maybe a wave of trade deals will happen and everything I'm saying can easily be dismissed. But I think it's fair to let you guys know what the data is saying for now. And if you feel like this is a grave injustice being done to us as Americans, I agree with you 100%. And I think the only truly effective way to protest all of this is if we stop consuming as much as we possibly can to bring this system to its knees. If we all can galvanize and actually manage that, then Congress, our president, will be on their knees, willing to do whatever we want to keep the consumption machine running. I am the Geo Husar, and now you guys know that PPI is not just something every new parent goes through when they're changing their baby's diapers. Thanks for watching.